Yeah, I mean, obviously Ross isn't here, but apart from that, everything else is going to stay the same.
Yeah, he passes on his apologies. He thought we were recording last night or something, and he was pissed up in a bar in Japan somewhere, and then sent me a message at like 2 a.m. saying, "Are we recording now?" And I was like, "No, we're recording at 11 o'clock tonight." And he's like, "Oh shit, sorry." So, yeah. But he sends his apologies, and we'll get him on the next one. So that's no problem.
That pesky international dateline.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, staying up's not an issue. I mean, tonight I've actually finally got round to watching a film with Alan Rickman in after his untimely death.
Oh yeah, which one?
And of course, it had to be the extended director's cut of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, good man.
That film is like just so like appalling but awesome at the same time.
What with is it Kevin Costner, the American Englishman? You know what I mean?
Robin
of Locksley.
Yeah, like the amount of ridiculous stuff in that film. Just man.
Wait.
Anyway,
Alan Rickman was in that?
He was the sheriff of Nottingham, wasn't he?
he was the sheriff. Yeah. He sort of hams it up large as like the wicked sheriff of Nottingham, and it's just so appallingly like it treads so badly over all the culture and the history. But things explode. So you know,
when an arrow goes into a door and the door explodes.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how it works, right?
What my one pet peeve, probably one of my favourite inaccuracies from that film, is that Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman arrive back in England at Dover, and he says something like, "By tonight we will dine with my father in Nottingham."
All right, yeah.
And then you just see them like having a bit of a walk, and then they're at Nottingham.
Do you know, if it was that easy, I'd be in Nottingham now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't just walk to Nottingham. It's like miles away. Oh.
I thought you could walk anywhere in England. Like, it's like, just walk to the other side of the country.
I wish.
This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. My name's Rob, I'll be your host for today's show. But we've also got more people than me, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear. First of all, we have Tom. Say hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. I couldn't resist, sorry.
Next, we've also got Mike.
Hello.
Good to hear from you, Mike. We've also got Scott, all the way from Australia.
Good day.
Good day indeed. And we've got the B-sharp Major General from America. Say hi.
Howdy, y'all.
Excellent. I'm glad to see those sort of like country-specific hellos. Today we've got a really good show. There's lots to talk about with big opinions, so I'm going to expect big opinions from all of you gents. And we're going to kick off, how we always kick off, with what we've been playing. I think I'm going to start with B-sharp. What have you been playing?
Well, in terms of Dreamcast, I'm putting off playing Sonic Shuffle because I want to try to route it, but it's hard to get started because I remember how bad it is and how the AI cheats. And
I remember how bad it. Well, I've never actually played it. That's how bad it is. I've heard. I've not actually even started it, so I'm in good company with that.
But in terms of games I'm actually playing, it's non-Dreamcast. It's Final Fantasy IV: The After Years.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Let's move on then. Mike, what have you been playing?
Dreamcast-wise, I've been trying to go through some puzzle games. I think with the imminent arrival of a game which we'll mention later on, I've gone back to some of the puzzle games, some of the Goat Store games from a few years ago.
Oh, yes.
So I've been playing a couple of them, but not much, to be honest with you, because mostly it's been Fallout 4. I'm afraid I've been hooked by Fallout 4 yet again.
So how many hours have you poured into that game now?
It's close to about 70 hours now. which isn't too bad, since I'm playing other games at the same time. So I'm quite happy with that.
Are you sort of just like ploughing through the main story, or have you sort of got lost in the myriad of like side quests and madness?
It's Fallout. You never play the main quest. You just play the side quest.
Unless it's Fallout 1, where you've got a clock ticking down going,
yes,
if you don't get the water chip, then it's game over.
Yeah, well, actually, I bought Wasteland 2 on PS4. I haven't even played it yet. I bought it so I'd have that sort of old-style Fallout feeling, but unfortunately, no. Fallout 4 has gripped me, and I'm currently wandering the wasteland with a dog.
Nice. What about in the game?
Yeah.
What about in the game?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Okay. Let's move on again. Scott, come on, talk to me. What have you been playing?
I think I quickly played Leona's Tricky Adventures this morning, which we'll talk about more later.
Yeah.
And if I get into too much detail about everything I bought recently, I think I'd pick up the rest of the podcast. So if you haven't seen the blog site posts, there's about 20 or almost 30 odd Japanese titles I've picked up for cheap. Most of them are rubbish, and you'll never play them, but they look pretty on the shelf.
But I'm glad that I got a shout out. Come on, what do you think of Netto de Tennis?
I haven't had a chance to give it a go yet, but it's on my to-do list. Yeah.
Scott, I've got a question. Did you buy them all from the same person, like in a big bundle, or did you buy them from separate sellers, or what?
Yeah, no, it was. There's a proxy service in Japan, so they're all from Yahoo Auctions Japan, so various sellers on that site, and then this service, buys them for you, collects them at a warehouse, bundles them all together, and then sends it off.
I did wonder how it
save
would
on postage.
Yeah, because it came in a massive box, didn't it? And everything was kind of individually wrapped. So I was just kind of a bit curious as to how that worked. But yeah, cool. Cheers.
Weirdly, actually, Scott, when I saw that post you put up about all the games you bought, I bought pretty much about half those games in a bundle myself the same week.
Oh, really?
From a seller on eBay. I bought like 25 Japanese games. And I was like quite, oh no, I've bought games I'll never play. And I saw your picture and I thought, well, actually, I'm not the only person doing this at the current time.
Yeah, we're not alone.
Buying a massive Love Hina box, it's got like these 3 brides on the front. I'm not quite sure if my gaming collection's got to a point where I can justify having this very odd-looking box. It's massive. I thought it was actually going to be wrapped up in a massive box when it came, and it was just actually the box itself with wrapping paper around it. It's huge. Right.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it on the Facebook page. I'd never seen that version before. So, yeah. I think I've got the same game, but it's just in a DVD case. It's just pretty small.
So can I ask, Scott, now with this bumper sort of additions, this big brace of games entering your collection, how far are you away now from where you're going, basically, with this?
It depends. I think I mentioned on the Facebook page, it's sort of like you got little micro goals.
Yeah.
So it's like I've got Guilty Gear X by Arc System Works, and what else did Arc System Works do? And they've done 2 others, so I'll grab those. Now I've completed that sort of mini set, and then you sort of look at all the Capcom titles, and you think, how many more Capcom titles do I need to complete that set? And and you sort of start moving forwards like that. But overall, I think I'm still like, if you're just looking at the single games list and not caring about, multiple versions of the same game in different regions, I'm about sort of 100 and 150 off a complete set. And most of those are just a lot of internet-based ones that were released in Japan that, don't even work anymore. So it's sort of hard to get the gumption to, well, I'm going to buy all those games that don't work anymore, just have them on the shelf. So it's sort of, I'm nearing the end. I keep thinking I'm nearing the end, but then there's always something else that you want as well. So I've got about maybe a couple of dozen of US PAL releases that I don't have, but they're the bottom tier sort of releases. And after I get those, I'll probably be done. But something else will probably spur me on at some point. And go, get the rest. Go on, you can do it.
The finish line can always be pushed back a little bit further.
Yeah, but there's always something extremely rare that is really expensive that there's a barrier to like trying to get them all. Like those the special version of the Dream Passport that came with the CSK health insurance Dreamcast and the special stock trading disc thing that they're either extremely rare or extremely expensive, and you go, well, I'm never going to get a full set. So one thing I've been doing, I don't know whether anybody else does this. I've been buying up crystal clear jewel cases and looking for ones with the white plastic in tray to replace the ones that I've got. And it's like, I feel like I'm glad I'm not the only one who does this, because I feel like I'm wasting all this money on, empty jewel cases just to make all my set, pristine and clean.
Is that because the white bit kind of goes yellow or discolors over time?
Yeah. And, you get scratches and stuff on it as well and things. So, but yeah, that's I'm in the process of trying to track down some white plastic trays. So.
Cool. Is that it? Anything else?
No. I had a quick go of, or maybe we'll talk about it later, and you can cut this bit out. But I've had a quick go of res with my new doubled up rumble pack, vibration pack thing that I've been developing. But we'll probably bring that up later.
Okay, cool.
So, when we talk about the NES
controller.
Yeah,
sure. Okay, let's move on again. Tom, what have you been playing or buying?
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't really buy this, but I want to say thank you to Scott for sending me all the way from the land down under, the Naomi 2, which he sent me. When was it? Was it like October or something that you sent it?
Yeah, it was about 3 months ago.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about it, and then I got this slip through the door. Weirdly, on the same day that you sent me an email saying, "Well, you should be getting it around about now," and lo and behold, that's what it was. And thanks very much for that. I appreciate that. As far as I know, it doesn't. Does it work, or is it?
I gave it a quick test with the other components that I have, and it didn't work immediately, but I didn't really spend much time.
To be honest, I'm really not bothered about it. It's nice just to have one, as a nice kind of piece to just have in the collection. I'll probably get a cart for it as well, just to slot in to make it look complete, which is, thanks very much for that, Scott. I appreciate that.
No worries.
Dreamcast-wise, I've been playing on a game called Speed Devils, a game I've mentioned many a time on the DreamPod, and I really just wanted to test it to see if it works on a VGA monitor, and it does, and it looks amazing. And I got into testing it and then started playing the single-player mode, and about 3 hours later realised that I was just meant to be testing it to see if it works on a VGA monitor. And I just forgot how good it was, with all the gambling and the upgrading and the buying of new vehicles and this, that and the other. And it plays really well as well, which is a nice bonus, I suppose. As well as that, I've been testing out which 2D fighters look good on the VGA monitor. It's a mixed bag, and a subject we're going to talk about later on in the podcast actually is related to this, so I'll come back to this in a bit. But on the other consoles, Game Boy Advance, I got a couple of games. Got Advanced Wars 2 this week, Final Fight 1, and Konami Crazy Racers, all of which are great games.
What's Final Fight 1 like on the GBA?
It's really good. The sprites are massive. I mean, you don't get more than about 3 on the screen at once, but it plays really well. And it's just like the only other Final Fight game I've played is Final Fight CD. So that was years ago. So in my mind, it's the same. Obviously, it's not, but it's really good fun. And it's just as you would imagine, Final Fight on the go. It's great. It looks really good on the Game Boy Advance screen as well. On the PS4, I've been playing a game I bought yesterday, which actually came out yesterday, which is Sebastian Loeb Rally.
Oh, yes.
Which is, I'm happy to say, actually really good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I got I got WRC 5, and I was speaking to you Mike, about WRC 5 and the issues I had with it. Yeah. And I mean, we both have issues with it. And I wasn't that impressed. But then I, funnily enough, exchanged WRC 5 for Sebastian Loeb, and it was a really good choice, to be honest, because this is actually the rally game that we should have on the PS4. It's really
tell me why it's really good, specifically.
Well, it's not just the fact that it plays really well, and it looks really good. It's the fact that there's just so much to do. The career mode is absolutely massive. Am I right, Mike? It isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a great career mode. Like, the rally games are often so sort of short and just have the one championship. But I was so surprised with Sebastian Loeb how much they've got in it. The career mode, goes from your own sort of little camp where you can train all the different championships, loads of cars. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, even like you've got championships going back to like the 70s. Like the is it the Class B cars? Stuff like that. It's just the depth of the game is phenomenal. I know people who play on the PC or say Dirt Rally's better. It's a better game. Yeah. Dirt Rally's coming to the PS4, but for now, this is the best rally game on the PS4. I mean, there's only two, granted, but this is better than WRC 5 anyway. Other than that, I've been playing a game called Flower, which is really weird. You just like kind of control some petals floating around, which is interesting. And one called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which came out a few months ago, but I'd never played, and it was on sale on PSN. So I thought, right, it's only a £5, I'll get it. And it's absolutely brilliant. You basically wander around this town in Shropshire in the 1980s, and everybody's disappeared. And the story is kind of relayed to you through like these ghostly encounters that you have with like these echoes of like conversations that people who used to live in the village
I see.
Are having. It's unbelievable. The graphics are something else. Easily one of the best looking games on the PS4. And apart from that, one other game on the Vita called, I think it's pronounced Nihilumbra. It's one of the PS Plus games that came out this month. And you basically play this little like you're kind of like a spirit, and you've got to draw things on the screen, and you can draw a bouncy bit, and you can jump on it, and it's hard to explain, but it's really good fun. But yeah, that's what I've been playing, and again, thanks to Scott for the Naomi. Enough about me. What about you, Rob? What have you been doing?
Oh yeah, awesome. It's been for a couple of weeks now, but I haven't spoken about it really because I really didn't know what to make of it. I've been playing Xenoblade X Chronicles on the Wii U.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of like it's a JRPG, team-based, Final Fantasy style. But the thing that sort of separates it is that about halfway through the game, you get access to massive MechWarrior style skells, they're called. And get to basically stomp around this alien planet in this massive armored walking titan, smashing things. So
that sounds completely at odds with what I would expect from that game, because I've seen screenshots of it, and it looks like you say like a traditional JRPG with pretty decent graphics, I must say. But I've never seen any screenshots of people walking around in MechWarriors. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Well, look, I don't want to oversell it. Like, it's a JRPG.
It's not Titanfall, is it? It's not. You've not been playing Titanfall on the slide.
No, it's not Titanfall. No, and like the physics aren't great. Like you're great. Like you look great when you're romping around, but there's no.
Thank you, Rob.
There's no real like serious collision physics or anything. It's not very visceral in that regard. But just in terms of the looks, it's really, really good. It's just incredibly addictive as well. So I've been playing that. I've been playing a bit more Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is great. In terms of Dreamcast, I played a bit of Dead or Alive 2, which is fabulous. And in terms of what I haven't bought anything this week, but I did win that Hanshin Tigers Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I'm super happy about that. I still haven't got the solid state Dreamcast though. Not solid state, sorry. The
fanless one.
The fanless Dreamcast. Yeah, I've still not got it, so I'm sorry that nothing's gone up on the site yet. But hopefully that will be soon.
I meant to ask about that. Is that a mod, or is that the first version of the hardware that was released?
It's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether that's what you were talking about, or whether it was something new that had been modded together.
So Scott, let me ask you the question. You say fanless, right? And it's not been modded in any way. This is actually how it came out. So you take the lid off.
So
and there's no fan or anything like that.
I think there is a fan. There's an exhaust fan. Right. But it is connected to those pipes that have started rumors about it being liquid cooling and stuff. But I don't think that was the case.
Yeah, because I've got one. I mean, when I did the whitening of my Dreamcast again a few months ago, the one I got, the last one I got, the Yukawa one, when I opened it, that had these like weird big pipes, and I just assumed there was another version. I think we're going to go off on a tangent if we don't just nip this one in the bud, but I just wanted to get a bit of clarification, because when you say fanless, to me that is like there's no fan kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see when Rob opens his up how it's different. Yeah. And just quickly before we moved on, I wanted to mention of all those games that I bought, I tried Reversi as a comparison to some of the more recent puzzle games we brought out. But it's the first game I've encountered that doesn't work with the boot disc, because I've just got my US NTSC Dreamcast handy, and I tried to play it on that via boot disc, and it wouldn't let me. And it's the first time I've seen that happen. I don't know whether it's happened to anybody else. Trying to use the Utopia boot disc or various other boot discs to get a different region game on a system working, but it didn't work with this one. It just froze at the under license from Sega screen and didn't go any further, which was it's a first for me. I don't know if it's happened to anyone else before.
Okay, we're going to move on, gentlemen. That was what we've been buying / playing / doing. Okay, we're going to move on to the news. And first up, we've got it's a pretty good piece of news, to be honest. And that's that the Dreamcast Junkyard has been selected for the UK Blog Awards 2016. It's a really big deal for the site, because it comes off the back of last year we were nominated for the UK Pod Awards. So, yeah, we're really excited about this. Tom, do you want to just talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the UK Blog Awards is quite a big thing. This is like the third year it's been running now, and I remember like a couple of years ago I saw it for the first time and I thought, that'd be quite interesting to see if we could enter the Dreamcast Junkyard in that, because for all intents and purposes it is a blog. We run on Blogger. And then I forgot to enter, and then the next year rolled around, and then again I forgot to enter, and then this time I thought, right, I've got to keep a note of the date and I'll enter the blog. So I did. And, we the first period was down to like a public vote. So people had to vote for their, the favourite blog, and you were allowed to, promote it on your blog as much as you wanted to, or on social media or whatnot. And we did. And, we got obviously quite a few votes. So I just want to say thank you to people listening to this, and to those people who actually voted and read the site and took some time to give us a vote. But yeah, the shortlist was announced a few days ago. And we were in the digital and tech category shortlist. So there's ourselves, and I think there's like 4 or 5 other blogs who are involved with like digital and tech stuff. So yeah, we'll be going to the awards ceremony on the 29th of April. And yeah, we'll be representing the Dreamcast community there, and hopefully, we may even come away with a prize. I'm not going to be disappointed if we don't, but it's a great, honour really to just be shortlisted. So yeah, thank you to everybody who voted, and long shall the Junkyard continue to dominate.
So worst case scenario, you can claim you're the 5th best
UK pretty much, yeah.
The Dreamcast Junkyard, the 5th best blog in the UK. Anyway, yeah, keep your eyes peeled to the site, because more information will drop with that. And I think, as we did with the pod, we'll probably do a recap anyway, regardless of the whether or not we win. Okay, yeah, so great. Moving on. Next, Leona's Tricky Adventures is out now. Scott, you bought 3 copies of the regular edition. Why would you buy 3 copies of the regular edition? Explain.
I'd like to wager that Scott is the only person in the entire is it Oceania?
Yeah,
the entire continent that owns 3 copies of Leona's Bizarre Adventures, or whatever it's called.
That's probably an easy bet. Yeah. So way back in 2013, after the Kickstarter failed, I followed them to their off Kickstarter website, and I ordered the limited edition and the regular edition, because it's what I do with most indie releases. I get both because I'm insane. And and then in the mail, I got a parcel that was quite thick, and I went, oh, well, they did send out both versions, and I opened up and I got 3 regular editions. So I sent them a tweet on Twitter asking about it, and they said, what they did was they sent out the regular edition to everyone who ordered either limited or regular editions, regardless, just so that everyone would get a copy of the game as soon as possible. And they gave bonus ones to some of the earlier supporters. So I was one of the earliest supporters, so I got bonus copies. But they also mentioned that they're planning to send out other goodies and stuff in the near future as well.
More copies of the same game.
I can't remember what the original Kickstarter offered. I think there were T-shirts and posters and things. So I guess I'm expecting those.
No, it'll be more copies.
It's going to be more copies.
More
that
copies.
6th copy, that will be the special one.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't hurt because I'll just whack them up on eBay and someone will buy them.
Just out of interest, how much does it actually cost from the website? I've not looked.
I think it was 30 euros or 29.99 euros or something like that. I could be totally wrong.
I've seen some on eBay recently. That's why. Mike, you've got it, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is 30 euros. I'm trying to find the email. I think it's 30 euros it costs.
That's about what, 17 quid, something like that. 18 quid.
It costs me more than that, actually.
Well, the point is, of the 17 copies you own, have you actually played one of them?
Yeah, so I only got it 2 days ago, and I chucked it in the Dreamcast this morning prior to the podcast to give initial impressions, and I'm quite impressed. I really like it. It's you can tell a lot of love and attention to detail has gone into it. It's it is a very 16-bit style, so it doesn't push the Dreamcast very hard. But I quite like it. I like the sound is really good. I really like the music to it, and I haven't got very far into it, but I had to. It was very addictive. I had to tear myself away from it in order to get to the podcast on time. So I'm quite happy with it, and I also threw in. I hadn't played Fruit Click Y before,
aka
either. Yeah. So I threw that in this morning as well because I'd heard that they were very similar, just to sort of compare them, and
because
it's going to be.
It kind of has like an RPG style overworld, and then each mission is basically like a puzzle. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, and the puzzle mechanics are very similar, or at least identical. I couldn't pick
like
the
two. Copy the shapes kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a similar mechanic with the you click the one square and the squares on top, bottom, and left and right also change. But it also made mention that later on in Leona's it would
change into like a first-person shooting. Later on,
no, not quite. But the cross pattern would change to something else later on. So I'm not quite sure what it will change to. So you'd hit the affected area of your click would change from top, bottom, left, right to something else, whether it's, I don't know, a cross or a 2x2 square or something, which is interesting, but I haven't got that far into the game. So I'll probably just mention a few niggles with it that I tried to play it this morning, like really early in this morning before everyone else had got up. And I didn't plug in my VMU because I wasn't sure whether I'd snipped the wire to the speaker yet, and I didn't want this high-pitched, squeal going through the house. So I left it. Yeah, I left it unplugged, and then I tried to play it, and it didn't have the option to have a go without saving it. So I had to risk putting in the VMU. So I had it bundled under the Duna to try. But luckily, the one I had handy, I had already cut the wire to the speaker, so I didn't wake anybody else up. So that was one little niggle that sort of was a bad first impression. But after that, I really enjoyed it, and the sense of humor that's sort of written into it as well. There's a moment near the beginning. I probably shouldn't spoil, but some people might look at it, and because the direction that you can travel in the overworld is limited to the paths that are on the screen, so you can't just go anywhere. You've got to follow the path. And there's a point early on where you run into a character, and he says, don't worry about the abyss over there. You can't fall into it because you've got to stick to the path.
It's a great bit. Yeah.
And then Leona sort of looks at him, looks at the abyss, and then walks off the path. And he's like, "Hang on, don't follow the rules of the game. You can't stay on the path." So I really like. So it sort of turned this sort of limitation of the game that you could sort of criticize it for into a sort of an in-joke within the game that you sort of just went along with. And I thought that was really nice.
Breaking the fourth wall,
and it sort of set the tone for the rest of the game. And I'm still waiting to see how interactive the overworld and the puzzles are, whether the multiple pathways sort of lead to alternate puzzles. I haven't really seen that yet. I've just seen, you finish a puzzle and trees grow or a tent appears or something, and nothing really substantial has happened from solving of the puzzles, because each puzzle has like a first tier completion and a second tier completion. So your first tier completion will open up the next path, and the second tier completion will do something else. And sometimes it will lead to an alternate path that leads to a gem. And I haven't quite figured out the purpose of the gems yet. It's some kind of, collect them up, whether it has a purpose or it's just collect all the gems yet. So it's still sort of very early stages yet. I'm not quite sure. But where it's going and how the longevity of it or anything. But, so far I've been really happy with it. And it's just unfortunate that Fruit Y came out sort of roughly around the same time, because the mechanics are very similar. And so if you've already bought Fruit Y, you may be reluctant to buy Leona's, even though I would probably say Leona's is a better game or a better experience.
Cool. What about you, Mike? You played it. What do you think?
Same with Scott, really. It is very, very similar to Fruity, the puzzles themselves. I was surprised how similar it was, to actually. But I think the whole overworld feeling of it and the polish the game's got, because I think the game's on Steam, from what I'm saying. Yeah. So if they've obviously put it on Steam and we've had some feedback from that and probably worked on it from there, because it looks really good, really polished. Probably up to one of the highest in terms of polished indie releases.
Cool. I mean, I'd heard comments about the box art being a bit not the best from a couple of people.
I think it's people who are used to the Japanese style of art probably are turned off a bit, but it's the Euro style sort of art.
It does. Early 90s Amiga.
That's right. Yeah. So if you're not into that, then you're not going to like it. But it's not awful.
So,
I don't
gentlemen,
mind it.
Scott and Mike, if you had to either throw away your 29 copies of Leona or throw away your single copy of Fruit Y, which one would you do?
Well, the Fruity cost what, €5, €3?
Cost nothing, did it?
I think both of them together, to be honest with you, I think it costs less than a release of a new game. I'm happy with both of them. But if I had to choose one, I would probably choose Leona's so far.
Okay,
yeah,
and that's where we're going to put that subject to bed for the time being. Next, we're going to move on to another game. This one hasn't been released, but was just revealed on the Dreamcast Junkyard. Defunct developer Fenris Wolf apparently made a game. I'd never heard of them. Had any of you heard of them?
Nope.
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 Well, apparently they were making a game. That's what I read on the Dreamcast Junkyard this week.
Yeah, basically, I'll take the lead with this
Thank
one.
You, Tom.
No worries, I'll save you from this this pit. I had a random email from a guy called Adrian Brown, his name is, and he was directing me to a new thread that had started up on the Dreamcast Talk forum, where somebody had discovered this game called Traveller, which was in development by, a defunct developer called Fenris Wolf, who did do a couple of PC games in the early to mid 90s. And basically, what this game was is imagine something like Elite, Elite Dangerous, quite what's the word, like a ambitious project where you could pilot a ship, like in something like Starlancer, but you could also walk around the ship as well. And then when you were on board the ship, you could also carry weapons, and it became kind of like a first-person shooter. So Yeah, a very ambitious project. And Sega basically pulled the plug very early on. And what this guy, Mark Jones, who was one of the developers on the game, has done is he's saved quite a few of the development artwork images and put them on his own personal website. And that's where Adrian came and he discovered them and put them on the Dreamcast Talk forum. And I thought it was very newsworthy because I'd never heard of this game before. Ever. I've never seen it mentioned in any magazines, anything. But yeah, apparently it was due to be a launch title for the Dreamcast, but Fenris Wolf came into financial difficulties. They were sued over some other game that they'd made by a big publisher, and they were, put into the ground. And yeah, all that remains of this game, Traveller, is the early images from Mark Jones's portfolio. And, looking at the images, you can tell the mock-ups, they're not running on Dreamcast hardware at all. But from what I can tell, and from speaking to him via email, he has got more stuff about this game, more assets, more video that he'll be releasing very soon, hopefully. Just to give a bit of background on Mark himself, he's a graphic artist now, but he's worked on some pretty big games, He's worked on stuff like from Bethesda. He started making games like in the Amiga era. Do you know what I mean? He's really well known in the gaming community. So this is obviously genuine. He's not going to just put this random rubbish on his website and say, "Oh, I made this." Not real. But yeah, I just saying there's another game that we've never heard of, the Dreamcast.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've had a look at it, and I think ambitious is probably the correct word. I mean, I don't know if that was ambitious to folly, considering that this Fenris Wolf clearly weren't very big. I mean, from the images that everyone should check out on the Junkyard, like the interior shots look very Unreal Tournament-y, I would say. And considering this is 1999, I'd say, yeah, no, that's probably what they were going for. But yeah, you're right. I think the thing that makes it exciting is that sort of, yeah, as you say, like elite Homeworld. Anyone play Homeworld?
No, I've not played it, but I know of it. I mean, it's the one thing about this entire subject that really fascinates me is the fact that we've never heard of it. We're Dreamcast fans and we've never heard of it. What other games are out there that we've never heard of, that were in development, and stuff exists on workstations in people's attics or garages or basements? Do you know? There's so much stuff that's out there still yet to be found, and this is a prime example of that. It's I love it.
Yeah, Mike will probably back me up on this. When you start delving into the catalog numbers of Dreamcast games, especially the Japanese ones, the third-party developers have their own unique code, so it's T-3-digit number. And if you start, looking at all the games that were released and looking at those T codes, you start to see gaps in the numbers. So it'll go like, T412 and then T414, and well, who was T413? Who were they and what were they working on? And they never released anything, but there was some kind of developer that secured that third-party code that was working on something at some point, but nothing ever happened. And there's a lot of instances of that in the third-party codes.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I found that fascinating. Hearing that now. So yeah,
it's the same with the white labels as well. All the white label, the promo discs. There's so many missing gaps. That obviously they probably weren't pressed, but it shows how many games probably went to Sega to actually have that sort of whole process of going to be published.
Yeah, because I think you're both right, because there's going to be gaps in every console, sort of. If there were those sort of codes for every console, which there probably isn't, but if there was, then there would be gaps. But I think because of the Dreamcast and because of how it ended, then there's going to be a hell of a lot more. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
One thing I will say, sorry, Xander, one thing I will say is that if you think about it in this way, a year ago, we didn't know about Take the Bullet or Colin McRae Rally 2 or Traveller or Renegade Racers or all these games that we've found. What we're going to find in the next 12 months. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Xander, I cut you off then. What were you going to say?
No, I was just saying that's pretty interesting that would happen for the Dreamcast.
Yeah, it is. Interesting time.
Awesome. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to move on because time is progressing. Okay, Ducks 1.5 Special Edition is happening, apparently. Are HughCast starting to lose the plot? Gentlemen, yes.
Yes.
Is this a massive cash grab? Gentlemen, opinions, big opinions.
Yes.
Hang on.
Scott, come on.
I don't want to be too disparaging of HughCast, because you can look at it from the perspective that, they could say, hey, Dreamcast community, we're developing Redux 2, we're running out of money, can we, have some sort of fundraiser where you just donate us money so we can continue making Redux 2?
Yeah.
And, rather than going that route where you just give them money for nothing, they're saying, here's an alternate special edition of a game you already own with a new soundtrack. We're going to charge you another $80, another $90 for it. You don't have to buy it, but it exists, and if you want it, you can have it. You probably will buy it. And it's this strange sort of dynamic in the community that there's this compulsion to buy and own everything, but it's your own compulsion. It's not you can decide not to. It's not as if.
The problem is there's Ducks, and how many versions of Ducks do we need? It's becoming a bit of a running joke.
That's right.
It's.
Look, I don't want to. I'm quite apprehensive to get involved in this conversation because I know Rene and from Play Asia, and we're trying to be impartial, but it's getting a bit beyond the joke, I think, with the amount of re-releases this game's having.
But they're good. It's a good game.
It's a great game. But I mean, it's like saying, it's like I don't know. Here's Drive Club 1.2, Drive Club 1.3. Actually, that's a really bad analogy because Drive Club keeps getting updated and it gets better and better every time. But I don't know. I mean, Ducks 1.6.
I would like clarification about exactly how much has changed from the last release of 1.5. Like, I know they're talking about a remix soundtrack, but I'd like to know exactly what else has changed to push me over the edge of potentially buying it, because I haven't quite got a sense of, like, they've talked about 60 frames per second and high res visuals and stuff, but I can't remember whether that was in the last version of Ducks 1.5
Somebody made
either.
a really good comment on the Facebook post that you put up, Scott. Somebody put, why don't they spend the time trying to fix Ghostblade?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen, midway
well, look,
through the year.
If anyone's got the 70 to 90 odd euros, I don't know what it is, to buy another special edition, you can do that pretty soon. I think pre-orders are already open.
I'm seriously considering it.
Oh, Scott!
I'll buy one. I'll buy one now.
There you go. There's two purchases already. What are we talking about?
I've no issue buying one. I've no issue buying it. It looks good in the collection.
Yeah.
It's just I just wish it wasn't. It's as much as I appreciate the fact that these developers are still bringing Dreamcast games out. It's just becoming a little bit of a running joke. Yeah. In some sectors, as Scott said, if it's a funding Redux 2, fine, just say it. It's a funding Redux 2. I don't think they have.
No,
have they said that?
Well, if they have,
no.
then great. But I'm going to guess they haven't, and I think that's the point. I think that it's becoming a joke because I think that's probably it's quite obvious that that's what it's for. I mean, and I appreciate that these guys aren't getting funding from they're not like swimming in money or anything. They need the money to continue development on new games, and that's amazing. That's really cool. But I think just a little bit of transparency would be great. Okay, let's move on. Finally, last piece of news. Somebody, and I don't know who it was, so apologies, put up on the Dreamcast Junkyard...
Was it
Scott? Oh, Scott. Sorry, Scott.
No, I replied to it, but someone else brought it up.
Oh, well, there we go. On the Junkyard Facebook group, somebody put up a eBay listing advertising a NES Dreamcast controller hybrid. Now, this was retailing for, was it $99? So, okay, if you haven't seen it, who wants to describe it? Come on.
I'll describe it. Basically, if you buy a NES controller and a Dreamcast controller and you cut a hole into the base of the Dreamcast controller and rewire the NES buttons to the Dreamcast buttons, then you can use the NES controller on your Dreamcast. It's a simple solution. I applaud.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's not going to be very. You've got this useless lump of weight in the middle of your cable between, your Dreamcast and your NES controller.
So it's basically a Dreamcast controller with a NES controller coming out of the Dreamcast controller.
Yeah.
What?
So you daisy chain your NES controller into a Dreamcast controller, and then you can use the NES controller to play NES emulation on your Dreamcast. And in one sense, it's a simple solution to a non-existent problem that, is, I applaud the guy for giving it a go. And you can scoff at the $99 mark, but, if you did it yourself, you're probably going to have to spend, at least $30 to $40 on a Dreamcast controller, maybe $20, $25 on a NES controller. And the shipping of those controllers to your home, you're getting close to that amount anyway. But, on the flip side, you can
just use a
you
Dreamcast
can just
controller.
buy a whole new NES. You can buy an entire NES and a couple of games and a NES controller instead. But I can imagine this extending to extending this idea further. If you had if you took the Dreamcast circuit board out of the controller, put it inside a box, and had a NES controller port, a SNES controller port.
Oh yeah, kind of like a Total Control.
Yeah,
for older consoles. Yeah,
and have some kind of switch, and even a Neo Geo controller, like those sort of main groups wired to a Dreamcast PCB and then to the Dreamcast. That would be a good idea.
Like I say, I agree with you totally there, Scott. That sounds like a really good idea. An actual proper Total Control for something that's not just a Saturn or a PlayStation. That's a really good idea.
So his idea is leading in the right direction, but the actual execution needs a bit.
It's amazing.
Work, I think.
Whenever you look at any good idea, the path that leads to the final product is littered with these kind of abortions, and this is one of them. I remember when I saw it. When you wake up in like the middle of the night and you just like look at your phone, see what time it is, and then you like kind of click on and you like go down the rabbit hole of looking at Facebook and Twitter 3 a.m. That's what I did, and I looked at Facebook and I saw this thing. I was like, "Am I still asleep? Like, what the fuck is this?" And just kind of clicked off it. And I was like, "Did I see that thing last night?" Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think lots of people, including myself, have been inspired by what's the guy's name in Greece? Was it Chris who's done the Dreamcast?
Yeah, Chris Dagger.
Yeah. So he's created this phenomenal piece of kit, and he's charging a lot of money for it. And people are sort of thinking, I can make money off the Dreamcast now by developing something, in that same area. But it needs a little bit more work than this controller. And there's lots of little ideas that you think about, but it's hard to work out the cost-benefit analysis of actually, going to the effort of making a small production run. Because like this morning, I'm talking about the VMU with the high-pitched squeal. Like it wouldn't take much to add a switch to that you could turn the speaker on off.
No.
And I could imagine that would be something people would buy.
I mean, Chris is even looking at doing. I know this has been done before, but like a lit VMU, So
yeah,
all these things exist, but it's just getting the cost down and making them available to people. So go on.
But the beep's part of the fun.
It's the unique part of the Dreamcast experience, and you get assaulted before the game even starts. So yeah, I've been sort of traveling down this rabbit hole as well. You've probably noticed posts on the Facebook group about I'm looking to bring the Res Trance vibrator to Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the version I'm up to at the moment is basically just piggybacking one vibration pack off another vibration pack. So you've got one in the controller and then a cord to another one that you can have elsewhere.
This whole thing fascinates me. I mean, what the original one for the PS2? What's the point of it? What does it do? Just sit on the table and vibrate?
No, the initial, depending on who you talk to, the initial purpose of it was that you put it underneath a cushion, and then you sit on the cushion, and then you get the vibration through the lower half of your body, and people scoff at it, and people laugh, and they make jokes, and people have made sexual innuendo about it, that you get your girlfriend involved, and that and it has been used for that purpose, but I actually got my prototype working, and I tried it out in an entirely kosher way, and it actually does add a little something to the experience. Like, I don't want to oversell it. It's not, it's not, not the greatest thing, but I would liken it to listening to Res in monaural and listening to it in stereo. It just adds a little bit. You've got stereo vibration. You got one in your hand, and I put them under my feet, and it did add a little something to the experience. It didn't, it wasn't, the greatest thing ever. But
the official kind of jump packs for the Dreamcast. So you're only going to get the amount of vibration that they can put out anyway.
Yeah,
it's not going to be like sitting on a diesel engine or something, is it?
No, that's right. Yeah. So I have had a couple of people interested in me making, a few more than just one prototype that they'd like to buy some.
It's cool though. You've done that.
Yeah. And I'm sort of you sort of look into the horizon and think, well, if I did a small batch of 100, would I be able to sell them, and how much would I be able to sell them for? And
$99.
Yeah,
that seems to be the starting price these days, doesn't it? For anything anybody makes.
Yeah. If I did that, I can't imagine that I would sell my entire production run, because you can buy the original PlayStation 2 version for $40 or $50. So you'd want to keep it at least around no more than that.
Scott, listen.
Yeah.
$99 with a NES pad coming out of one of them.
Yeah, that's right. But the actual cost involved of acquiring all of these, unused vibration packs, like the ones I bought were like $3 or $5 from Yahoo Auctions Japan, and then it was like another $15 or $20 to ship it to Australia. So, like, even before you start, on a just a one-to-one basis, you're looking at like $40 or $50 before you even start. So I'm starting to think about, well, what if I, got a plastic manufacturer to, replicate the case, because I don't necessarily need, existing. I could, recreate them from scratch, but once you start going down that avenue, you're not sure, whether it's going to. What you get back from sales would make up from what you spend in making it. So I'm still sort of feeling it out and looking for it, and I'll probably do at least 5 or 10 if there's interest and stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of space to be in, that there's this reasonably good idea, and it can be done within a reasonable amount of money. But whether how much it'll take off, whether you'll make a profit of it, or it's just like a hobby thing that you're doing, it's sort of I'd like to hear if anyone else out there has, ideas or, about Dreamcast accessory mods that they're looking into. It's a fertile ground to explore, but, whether you'll achieve the same heights as the DreamCon is sort of, that's at a whole new level. Sort of
Who knows? I mean, in the future, we could be watching Santa Claus versus the Martians with a full vibrator compatibility.
Have you guys seen the special edition of Res for the PlayStation 2? It was called I hadn't seen it before. It was called.
Was it Daniel Enck put it on the Facebook group with all the pictures from Imager, or?
It might have been. I haven't seen it. It was like the euphoric intoxication set or something, and it came with vibrating headphones.
Yeah.
I'd never seen those before. It was only recently that I stumbled across it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, gentlemen, that brings the news section to a close. We're now going to move on to something a little different. Just this week, I've been watching loads more of the Awesome Games Done Quick speedruns on YouTube, and it's really cool. If you haven't heard of Awesome Games Done Quick or Summer Games Done Quick, then search for them on YouTube. It's a really good show, and they're really good speedruns. But one of the notable speedruns I watched this week was that Super Metroid got a new world record, but it wasn't a single player. It was 2 players playing the game with a single controller. And they beat Super Metroid in, I think it was 52 minutes. So one of them's controlling the direction and the top L, and the other chap's controlling the buttons and the and the top art.
So it's like the old Micro Machines 8-player on Mega Drive, where you used to have two players on the controller.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
It was crazy to watch, but my point is, which games do we feel would be cool for speedrunners to really have a go at on the Dreamcast?
Nomad Soul. Yeah, reading that text is hard enough. It's that small. No,
I mean the obvious ones like the Sonic games, both adventures I have seen on.
Oh, I've got one. Sorry, Super Magnetic Neo. He gets that kind of mind fuckery with the different polarities.
Yeah.
When you get later on in the game, and you got to jump and then switch, mid jump to a different polarity. That'd be good.
Yeah,
because it's really Twitch trigger.
That's a good call. Anybody else?
I really seriously. I don't know much about speedrunning, and I really sort of sat down and seriously thought about it. And a lot of the Dreamcast games don't really apply. When you think about most shoot 'em ups, the progression is sort of fixed as you move up the screen or across the screen. The only opportunity you have to reduce your time would be at the boss battles, which is something, but there's a lot of restrictions. And
I was just going to say then, I mean, if people aren't, if nothing really springs to mind, let's just talk generally about speedrunning. Is this something that any of you guys have heard of or find interesting, or have you ever attempted to speedrun any game?
I've not. I mean, I know of the subjects because I've watched, Doom.
Yeah.
Doom 2 speedruns. I find them fascinating just because, I watch them just because I love Doom, and I've never actually tried to do them myself. But I do think there are quite a few games on the Dreamcast that could be speedrun. I mean, you've got things like first-person shoot-em-ups like Soldier of Fortune. I know you'd have to wait about half an hour for each level to load, so that couldn't be added to the actual speedrun itself.
No.
But I think there's games like that could be done. I mean, I know Half-Life wasn't officially released, but you can get it, so that could be another one. So
it's it's not that it's not impossible to do it, but it's sort of at that high level sort of speed running when you I don't have much experience in it. I don't have the patience for it, but when I've seen other people do it, particularly with the older sort of 8-bit, 16-bit games, they're looking for little, flaws or glitches or, strange things that you can do to break the game so you can finish the level in 3 seconds.
Yeah, to exploit it and get a fast time. Yeah, an impossibly fast time.
Yeah, and I can't think of anything like that on Dreamcast. And I'm not saying all the Dreamcast games are glitch free, but maybe there just hasn't been enough. Enough research.
Oh, here's one. What about somebody trying to do a speed run of Blue Stinger?
Ooh.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
It takes about 10 minutes to kill every enemy.
Yeah. And I can imagine you could pick something really obscure in Japanese that nobody's ever played, and you would hold the world record for decades.
Well, Rob, you could do a speed run of Lack of Love, where you have to try and get get the girl in the quickest time possible. Fire a Bacardi Breezer. You'll be done.
I think a lot of those games, a lot of those games, there's no sort of time-based component that it would be. Once you've done it first, it can never be done any quicker. Because clicking through all the text and saying it can't be done any quicker than that. So you've got the world record and you would hold it forever. But one serious consideration, I reckon, would be Cosmic Smash. I reckon there's a lot of opportunity for a perfect run through that.
Oh, that's a good shout, yeah.
Yeah, that's looking through my list of games, that was the only one that stood out as the obvious sort of speedrun contender.
I need to make a quick correction as well. I said Lack of Love, I meant Key to E.
You did.
Key to E, living in Northern City, yeah.
I knew what you meant, Tom.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant too, yeah.
There's also Toy Commander. You can fly around and figure out the optimal routes in order to get that down as fast as you can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
True.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one. Well, look out for me at Summer Games Done Quick playing Key to E. Let's move on. Okay, gentlemen, the Dream Pie. I want a Dream Pie update. Tom, give me a Dream Pie update. Do it now.
Okay, the newest version of the Dream Pie software is now available to download, and the Dreamcast Now service is online, and by all accounts is running really well. I don't actually have a Dream Pie yet, but Luke Benstead, who is the creator of Dream Pie, is sending me a line voltage inducer at some point in the near future, which is the cable you need to get the modem connected to the phone line. On this subject, just wanted to give a quick shout out to a guy called John Wiseman, who also does stuff with the Dream Pie. He sells them on eBay. And we mentioned him in the last podcast with Luke, but we cut the bit out because we weren't sure if we were okay to mention him and what he's doing on eBay and stuff. So John Wiseman is doing quite a lot in the Dream Pie community. So check out his auction on the old eBays. Yeah,
awesome.
Apart from, I've not actually used one online yet. I'm still waiting to get online with Dream Pie. But when I do, you will hear about it.
Excellent.
I've been meaning to ask. I should just test it out for myself. Whether the broadband adapter works with the Dreamcast Now online service. I assume it would.
I personally don't know. I'm not very knowledgeable in this field. I just kind of get told stuff by Luke and then write it. So you're probably best off asking him, to be honest.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, gentlemen. This brings us to the last point on our schedule today for the pod. We're going to have another retro review. Yay!
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 Woo! Okay. Gentlemen, a long time ago, Game Informer said, not only does Guilty Gear X not push the 2D fighter envelope, it doesn't even give it the slightest nudge. It's especially weak in the singles game too, so only consider purchasing it if you and your friend want to go at it. They rated the game 6 out of 10.
Boo!
No.
They
were wrong.
I'm getting the feel
So
already. Yeah, they're wrong, but Tom, tell me why they're wrong with specifics.
Okay, this is just my opinion. Okay. For a start, the game sounds amazing. The music is phenomenal. It's so good. It's like sort of classic rock, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
One specific thing that I want to bring up, and something that I alluded to earlier on in the podcast, was today I was testing all of the 2D fighters that I own on the VGA monitor, the proper CRT PC monitor that I own.
Sure.
And the only one that actually looked better than if you just used it on a normal TV was Guilty Gear X, because it looks like it's made for a CRT VGA monitor. Do you know what I mean? The lines are just perfectly. It looks like a cartoon still. Everything else I've played on the VGA, 2D fighter wise, just looks pretty bad, to be honest, in VGA mode. And this is everything, even like Capcom vs SNK, all the King of Fighters games look horrendous. It's just like a block fest. Guilty Gear X looks amazing. It's just so crisp, and the animation is so good. And the one thing that what you said here, Rob, about it doesn't push envelope or anything like that. The one thing that kind of, for me at least, sets it out against all the other 2D fighters, it's more of a vertical fighter. The gameplay space exists in like a higher, it's not just, you're not just stood on a platform fighting against each other and you get the odd jump. Because you can jump so high, it has more tactical. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys or what, but...
No, I understand what you mean. Like Dive Kick showed that if you boil down basically every fighter, like Dive Kick does, it's all essentially about jumping and kicking.
Yeah, aerial attacks basically, and this has it in abundance. You can jump off the side of the screen and up and up and up, and it just keeps going vertically. It's amazing.
I like that, Tom. That was a good big opinion, Scott. Big opinion.
I wish I was more authoritative on the subject, because I've always wanted to be, a beat 'em up guru, and
Look,
the last
Scott,
time
I'm a complete noob when it comes to beat 'em ups, and that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, I loved Street Fighter 2, and I played Street Fighter 2 to death, and I understood everything about it, to when the enemy is this many pixels away, you do these things, and if they come within this pixel range, you do these. You do the sweep kick and stuff, and it's like understanding the mechanics to that insane level of detail is like something I've wanted to like do again with more recent beat 'em ups, but I've just never had the time. And when I got if I remember it right, Super Street Fighter 2 X Turbo Grandmaster Challenge 4 matching service on Dreamcast.
Well
Wow.
I put that in thinking, oh yeah, I remember Street Fighter 2. I was good at that, and that game absolutely owned me. I was really bad, and it's like I've gotten really bad at beat 'em ups, and I don't know how to play them anymore. And I've always wanted to get back into it, and I've just never had the time. And Guilty Gear is one of the series I've always wanted to get into.
Please do.
And like,
it's so good. Sorry to cut you off.
Like you said, with it,
from like a complete novice newbie kind of like point of view, it's refreshing. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, I've heard that the emphasis in Guilty Gear is very much on offense. They've sort of weakened defensive play, and if you sit there blocking for too long, your super meter goes down, and you're just noobed, and you just so it's very much gearing it towards be aggressive, be offensive, don't sit in the corner and block or parry and things like that. And it sounded really interesting to me. I have given it a few quick bashes, just mashing buttons and having fun with it and stuff. But I love the lore behind it. I love the mythology behind it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I know most people don't care about the storyline behind a beat 'em up, but I think this one has got a really interesting. They put a lot of effort into it. I love the final boss of Guilty Gear X. How she's this the pacifist daughter of the first game's evil boss who doesn't want to get involved in the war between humanity and Gears, but she can't avoid it, and there's this bounty on her head. I think, and the theme song that goes with that, I think is it's just spot on. And I've bought all the Guilty Gear games. Like I've got the Guilty Gear for PlayStation, and I bought all of the Guilty Gear XS versions on Naomi. So there's like 4 different versions that I've just, and I even bought a Wonder Swan for Guilty Gear Petite 1 and 2. So I've got them all. They're all sitting there ready to go.
Can I just make one other point before somebody else has their opinion? One thing that I wanted to mention is just how great the characters are. I mean, the character roster is so amazingly individual. I was playing it earlier on this evening just because I knew we might talk about it today, and some of the characters that I kind of picked out that I just thought were amazing. There's a guy called Venom, right? He uses a pool cue as a weapon, and at the start of the match, he opens up his pool cue case and then snaps it together. And he actually, some of his offensive moves are to form pool cues pool balls or billiard balls out of plasma or whatever, and then kind of slot them towards the enemy. I was just like, how brilliant is that? And there's one kind of, exactly. And there's another move where you can kind of get somebody and encapsulate them inside the cue ball, and there's another character called a Baiken, I think that's how you pronounce it. Who's a one-armed samurai, so she can only use the sword with her left arm, and it's just amazing. Anyway, that's just my sort of 10 cents. Sorry.
Xander, have you got any opinion on Guilty Gear?
I mean, it looks cool, but I don't actually own it.
Hey, don't worry at all. Mike, any thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm going to be the odd one out here. So I'm not a massive fighter fan anyway, to be honest with you. I think before I started really getting into the Dreamcast and doing a book, I didn't really play shmups or fighters.
Get out!
But I've grown to love them. I love SNK fighting games. I love usually. I'm really into them, or more than I used to be. The problem is I can see where the review is coming from, because I was back then. I was more of a PC gamer, and I think a lot of people who weren't into fighters never really saw what the 2D fighters actually were doing. It's like a lot of them are so similar, especially back in the day, because there were so many of them on the Dreamcast especially. They're all quite similar. I love the whole sort of atmosphere of Guilty Gear. I love the music's brilliant. And the game itself is pretty good. I've played it early on today because I knew we were going to talk about it. I did play it, and it's a decent game, but I can see where the review's coming from. It doesn't push anything. It's nothing revolutionary. And I think at the time there were so many games which were completely revolutionary. This is the same console that Shenmue is on. It's the same console, who had things like Crazy Taxi. Games that are so different than what came before. I think a lot of people at the time just didn't get 2D fighters. Looking back to some Dreamcast magazines in the UK, the 2D fighters were just ridiculed. It's quite funny to read back.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that in a couple of magazines. One review I read recently was the review of The Last Blade 2, which got absolutely demolished in the UK press. It got 35% in one magazine.
I think every single one, up to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, most of them got just really. I think Marvel vs. Capcom 1 got terrible scores in a lot of the magazines. People didn't like it. I think number 2 did a lot better. I think that sort of changed a lot of things. But a lot of the games, especially the SNK fighting games, they're not well received at all.
I think one of the quotes that stuck in my mind. I mean, I don't know if gamers or the gaming press at large have kind of matured slightly since the sort of the late 90s and early 2000s in the way that they appreciate 2D games. But one of the quotes I remember, certainly in the Last Blade 2 review, was that this looks like a SNES game. We've moved on.
That's right.
What? Are you kidding me? I mean, there's always a place for 2D games.
Yeah,
but a lot of games like that kind of era, 97, 98 to 2001, 2002, 2D was just not. It wasn't. I suppose it wasn't long enough in the past for it to have the sort of retro and nostalgia feeling. I remember the first Grand Theft Auto, which I absolutely loved. A lot of people didn't like the game. It never obtained the sort of Grand Theft Auto stratospheric sort of appeal that 3 onwards has had, because it was 2D, and I think a lot of people dismissed 2D, and I agree with a lot. I started it by saying that I agreed with the review from back in the day, which I sort of do. That's not to say it's not a great game, because I enjoyed it massively early on. I do enjoy 2D fighters, but I can see what they mean by it not being revolutionary enough, not being different enough.
I think I agree. I forget who said that then, talking about people maturing. I think the problem was, you say that people were turned off these 2D games, but I think that began with the journalists themselves, and I think coverage of video games journalism itself was still relatively in its infancy. It was nowhere near as sort of professional and slick and run by actual adults, proper adults that it is today, a lot of youngsters. And I think people did get swept away in the everything's 3D, look at this, everything's got to be 3D now. Everything, if you're not 3D, you're dead. And I think certain games, like as you mentioned, Tom, The Last Blade, that's offensive saying it looks like a SNES game. I mean, whoever wrote that needs to be shot. It does not. It does not look like a SNES game. But equally, I agree with Mike to a degree that I can understand why some journalists at the time would go, "Wait a minute, why isn't this like Dead or Alive?" Or you know what I mean? Why isn't this 3D? Why am I still playing these 2D fighters? And Mike also said something interesting about versus fighters not really being popular in the UK. I think that's true of all of Europe. I don't think versus fighters as a genre has ever really been very big here. I think their real core stronghold is in Japan and in America. They've got very big communities. They've got loads of expos, like dedicated fighting game tournaments, and you don't really get that in Europe. I know there's some good top players now in the Street Fighter community that come from France and Germany and the UK. So look, I'm not saying it's a desolate wasteland, but I do think that gaming taste varies depending on where you are culturally in the world. Okay, gentlemen, I want then a score from each of you. Xander, you don't need to worry about this, but everybody else, I want a score out of 10 because we are men.
Oh.
And we like to rate things out of 10. So we're going to start with Tom because you were eulogizing about this game. What would you give it?
8.
8.
Solid 8, yeah, solid 8.
Scott, you're next.
Yeah, I'd say at least an 8, and if I had more experience with it, I'd probably push it to a 9.
Okay, and finally, Mike.
I feel like I'm going to get lynched by some kind of Dreamcast fighting posse out there. I'm going to say 7 because it is a good game, but it's not.
Get your pitchbox, boys.
I go to a retro show tomorrow. Oh, luckily, this won't be out until after that, will it? So that's good. I'll go in disguise any retro show I go to, I think.
And on that, gentlemen, we finish today's podcast. That was episode 25 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you have, we'd be super appreciative if you could leave us a tasty 5-star review on iTunes. Of course, this is but one of 25 awesome episodes of the DreamPod, with all the others available to download right now on thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. Just click on the podcast button in the top navigation bar. Further, a whole smorgasbord of top quality content is available on the Dreamcast Junkyard, ranging from developer interviews to unknown game reveals, how-to explainers, and awesome opinion pieces. In addition, the Dreamcast Junkyard also has its own Facebook group, which can be found at facebook.com/the Dreamcast Junkyard, and its own Twitter account too, which can be found at Sega Junkyard. So be sure to check out the site, podcast, and social media pages for all the world's best Dreamcast coverage. Dream on!
Please stop this disc now.